One of our desires or our motivations in putting together this exhibition was to start to connect people who are like-minded and interested in technologies and change within the field that would better health and better the environment. I mean, we haven't invented the idea of things shifting in printmaking. These shifts began a long time ago, particularly with human health, people trying to better human health in the print studio. But this is kind of the next iteration in that now that some of that groundwork has been laid, we're able now to focus on the health of the environment as well. So now that we have sort of established a group of people who are connected, it'll be much easier to share information in the future, and hopefully this will inspire others to think about moving in this direction. Our symposium as well in the School of the Art is a free symposium open to all, so we're hoping that this information will then trickle into other educational institutions and into the general public. And the great thing about many of these processes is that they can, like this monoprint for example, can be done without any acid, without any technology, and people can make amazing contemporary prints in a way that's healthy and sustainable.
If we think about the traditional ideas of print and how it was created, this one is the same, using the same ideas, the multiple, and so how print has been changing and growing over the years, and how we think about print. There's a wide variety of different ways of looking at print. This technique is used with bioplastics, and so they're over time will biodegrade, and so thinking about the impact again and using new technology and how that is adding or subtracting to our health and safety or the impact or the environment. Some of these practices we are able to bring into our own studios for educational purposes, in which we have done with Estisol for stone lithography, as well as big grounds, taking away asphaltum traditionally used in etching. Both of these products replace really heavy volatile organic compounds and reduces the impact on the health and also the environment as well.
I'm standing beside Flora and Hadigan's The River print. Briana Palmer has talked about the new technologies and the shifts that are happening within printmaking. This is kind of an interesting print because it takes digital technology, digital photography, which has been printed on a substrate and then carved with a very old traditional form of relief printmaking. So a 125-year-old process that's been combined with a newer digital technology to create this work. And so that's one of the reasons why it's in the show. Also, the imagery itself in its reference to the environment places it in the context of the show. Marjolaine Bourgeois uses a kind of alternative support for this work. It's fabric, so photographic image transfers that have been placed on fabric, and then things are collaged and sewn together, and some collagraph work in it as well. She talks about sort of the debris of our lives, all of the just the great amount of images and flux that comes through our lives, and how she's taken that and sort of recomposed it into this image that compiles a lot of disparate elements, but in a way that kind of makes sense, which is part of our daily lives, of taking all the information that comes our way and trying to shift through and make relationships between things and come up with meaning out of our daily experience.
So this work is by Robert Trzowski. It's UV water-based silkscreen ink. So silkscreen really was a commercial-driven process, and if we remember back to Andy Warhol, he really brought silkscreen into the medium of printmaking and took it out of the commercial world and brought it into the mainstream art practice. Back then, it was all oil-based ink, which was incredibly toxic because of the volatile chemicals. And then slowly there was a shift to move to water-based inks, but there was a problem there that the color wasn't as vibrant with the water-based inks, and also because the detail that you wanted to get with silkscreen sometimes was lost because of the water-based screen. Ink would dry right into your screen before you had a chance to screen it through, versus the oil-based inks where you could leave and walk away and come back, and it would still allow you to screen through your matrix or screen onto your matrix was still open, basically because the oil base never dried. So this is one step past that, and it's using UV inks, which can only be dried with a UV cure machine. So they work very much like oil-based ink in that they stay open, and you're able to use them again and again, and keep the consistency and the screen open for your edition, and get that kind of detail that was kind of lost in the water-based ink.
So I'm looking at Karen Cornelius's Fancy Dress in the Congo, which is an electro etching. This is not a new process, but it's been sort of revived recently by a lot of printmakers, and it's a process whereby rather than etching in an acid bath, the metal matrix is etched in a salt bath solution, which is charged with a very low electrical current, so that the metal ions actually transfer off the positive plate and onto a negative plate, allowing metal to either build up on the matrix or to be subtracted from the matrix. People use it both ways. And so this process means that that bath can stay indefinitely. It just needs more salt added in the electrical current. There's nothing to dispose of. There's no acid or acid fumes to be exposed to. And it does come up with a characteristically interesting mark for intaglio prints because of the crystalline nature of the way metal etches in this particular bath. Electro etching is a process that we're interested in at McMaster. I have done a residency at the ValdeVid Residency print shop just north of Montreal, and it's a process we would like to bring to McMaster. Also in this case is Bryce Honeycutt's bookwork. It's created by taking paper and objects and packaging them and letting the environment itself stain and create imagery that can then be modified later and turned into this very interesting bookwork, which kind of collaborates with nature.
This is an example of the big grounds that I talked about previously in the introduction, and they're prints done by John Graham. This again is an etching technique. We have introduced it into our studio practice, and we learned it through the Southern Graphic Print Conference that happens every year, and it's like a Star Trek convention, but it's only for printmakers come, and we gather around and we share technology and we share ideas. Print is a community-based practice. You have to engage in the studio with other people. So we have Z-Maze, where we first learned about big grounds, and they will be coming to our symposium to again share their knowledge and disseminate information on the use of big grounds. There's a bunch of different techniques, so big grounds will do a wide variety of techniques, not just line etching, but they will do aqua tint, and you can do different kinds of lifts. So there's a whole bunch of different ways in which you can use big grounds, and John has utilized this in his work.
Another work which celebrates the potential of printmaking to work in relief is this work by Monique Martin, and it is a die-cut print, so it's layers of a print that have been die-cut and put collaged together to create actual 3D relief in paper. And the imagery of the bird nest was inspired by an event which she saw where a bird nest was destroyed, and the bird came back and with great diligence rebuilt the nest. And so that idea of resilience in times of environmental destruction, I think, comes across in these works. Nathan Meltz is represented by two works in the collection, silkscreen to my right, and also this silkscreen animation, which is made by multiple prints which are then strung together to create an animated sort of narrative. The storyline is, and the title of the work is Fracture in the Crystal City, and so he's actually representing through this animation a fictitious city which experiences its demise through environmental impacts.
This is an example of silkscreen and digital printing. It's by Stephanie Russ, Airstream, 2014, and this is the first this is the first one in the edition of 4. Again, it is printed with water-based silkscreen, so a little different from the UV silkscreen, but you can still see there is a lot of quite beautiful line work here and very thin line work here, so she's still able to get that detail. And it's printed on top of a inkjet. So going straight, not thinking about making the whole entire print in silkscreen, but then using the computer and printing out the edition first in using digital technology, and then going in and silkscreening on top.
I'm standing beside Liz Menard's homage to E. Pauline Johnson. E. Pauline Johnson is a First Nations poet and is credited for being one of our Canada's first environmentalists. So this piece, which is a kind of low relief forest of birch trees, the lines of the birch are actually the words to E. Pauline Johnson's poem. And so it's creating the environment of birch, which references the context in which E. Pauline Johnson would have experienced, but also her own poetry, which creates the imagery on the birch bark.